Hello and welcome to the 33rd annual Summer Shakespeare and the first, hopefully last, summer online Shakespeare. It is a beautiful night here in Nashville, Tennessee, and I am very much looking forward to returning to one city next year to Sump, coffee and pastaria, pasta and moosehead kettle corn. But I am very happy that you have joined us here tonight and thrilled to be hosting this wonderful celebration. I have to give a quick shout out to my son, Arlo, who turns 30, 30 years ago, right after we, 30 years ago, right after we closed Mary Wise of Windsor, I gave birth to that wonderful man. And he's now happily married, living in Baltimore with his wife, studying art, and he's being a wonderful human and making the world a better place. So happy birthday, Arlo. Shakespeare. The schedule tonight will follow the schedule of a normal night of Summer Shakespeare. We'll have scholars speaking at 5:30 p.m. You would be in Sump, you know, if we were at one city looking out at the field and the audience growing, sipping on something wonderful. At 6 o'clock, we'll have music like we usually do. The Apprentice Company will be introduced at 6:30. And at 7 p.m., it'll be showtime, folks. And we will be looking at photos of shows from the past 3 decades and sharing memories with some of the people who made those shows memorable. And then, as I promised over and over and teased, if not taunted you all, I will make a big announcement at 7:30 p.m. tonight. So stay tuned or come back and be the first to hear that big news. And just like we usually do when we are doing Summer Shakespeare, we are asking for donations to help us keep Shakespeare alive and well in the 21st century. You can visit our website and donate there, send a check to the office, just help us out in this time of need. And we promise, as always, to turn every dollar into educating and entertaining the Mid-South community through professional Shakespearean experiences. So again, thanks for being here. Welcome. Without much more ado, I would like to introduce to you the chair of the Nashville Shakespeare Festival Board of Directors, Dr. Marcia McDonald, who will be facilitating Insight, our scholarly talk for tonight. Hello, Marcia. Marcia, who's muted?
Sorry, get my Zoom stuff going, my Zoom head going here. Thank you so much, Denise. It's a pleasure. It's a great pleasure to serve as the chair of the board, because I get to work with a wonderful staff at Nashville Shakespeare Festival and board to help them put on these plays that for over 30 years have been so meaningful to the Nashville community and beyond, and very much beyond. And one thing we started, I should have looked this up at least 6 years ago, maybe even, I think at least about 6 years ago, was something that for many years we called Talking Shakespeare. Many people like to come early, bring something to eat or get something to eat from the various vendors around the one city area, and have a chance to sit around and talk about Shakespeare. It's going to get a new name when we come back next summer. It will be Insight, and we hope that it does indeed give you a time to get some new insights about the plays. What happens at these is that they're discussions. There are a number of faculty who teach Shakespeare, theater, drama of different kinds from our regional university campuses, college and university campuses. And tonight I have a wonderful group who represents that larger group. And you would be invited to enjoy a roundtable discussion led by one of these scholars. And it's a chance not only for us to talk with you about works that we love, but also to gain new ideas, for you to get to know who's there watching Shakespeare with me, and who, what is that person thinking about? That's one of the most wonderful things about these, is that you get to know the people that you're watching Shakespeare with. So let's get started on our sampler here for Insight. As I said, I've got with me 4 of our wonderful regular participants. I will introduce each one of them and ask them to respond briefly to the question of why should you come to see a play by a 400-year-old playwright, or a 400-year-old play in the 21st century? What would make you want to do that? What might be interesting or intriguing about these plays? So tonight we will begin with Dr. Julie Fessmeyer from Vanderbilt University. And she is a specialist not only in Shakespeare and early modern, but also in classical literature. So Julie, why would you come out to see a play by a 400-year-old playwright?
Mute. Okay, I think I'm unmuted. Yay. The way I start my Shakespeare class is commonplace, to quote Ben Jonson, right? Shakespeare was not of an age, but for all time. And one of the things that I think those of us who love to go to these plays have noticed is they can be adapted to many different time periods. So one of the things I want the students to do is look at what issues Shakespeare's plays seem to be raising, and then how those issues seem to be relevant now. We had the post-apocalyptic Macbeth, right, earlier in the season. And I have seen Macbeth set many years ago, I think this was when I was a graduate student, in South Africa. And they didn't change any of the lines, and it still all worked. So there's something about the way Shakespeare conceives his various universes that just seems to be timeless. One of the things that I also like to look at is someone like Virginia Woolf, who in A Room of One's Own creates chapter 3, Shakespeare's sister. She says, what happens if there is a woman of genius? Because she designates Shakespeare as the man of genius. Well, what would happen to a woman who had Shakespeare's genius? And then she goes on to focus on why Shakespeare is the genius, which I thought I should read to you guys. She says, for though we say that we know nothing about Shakespeare's state of mind, even as we say that, we are saying something about Shakespeare's state of mind. The reason perhaps why we know so little of Shakespeare compared to Donne or Ben Jonson or Milton is that his grudges and spites and antipathies are hidden from us. We are not held up by some revelation which reminds us of the writer. All desire to protest, to preach, to proclaim an injury, to pay off a score, to make the world the witness of some hardship or grievance was fired out of him and consumed. Therefore, his poetry flows from him free and unimpeded. If ever a human being got his work expressed completely, it was Shakespeare. If ever a mind was incandescent, unimpeded, I thought, turning again to the bookcase, it was Shakespeare's mind. And I think this kind of view of Shakespeare helps us understand how he sees the world in a particularly unique way. And we can take that and move on. I mean, and we can move on. Marcia, tell me when I need to stop talking, because I haven't talked to anybody all summer because I haven't been teaching. But I mean, we can move on to somebody like Jan Kott, who later, mid-century, 1961, I think, was Shakespeare our contemporary. Mm-hmm. And he's doing things like comparing Lear to Brecht. And and we move on. We've got, I'll do visual aids because I like to do visual aids. One of the more recent is Stephen Greenblatt's Tyrant, where he goes through a number of the plays and focuses on how they elucidate what's going on in contemporary politics. So yeah, that's my longer than probably should have been response, but thank you.
No, thank you. No, that's wonderful. An array of things, array of ways Shakespeare continues to connect. I'd now like to introduce you to Dr. Mickey Wadia from Austin Peay State University, where he's a professor of English. He's also, as I know, several of the faculty do study abroads. He's done one with Denise Hicks in London to see Shakespeare. Mickey, why? You bring your students down to Shakespeare every year. Why do you bring them down to see?
Oh my goodness, I have to bring this enthusiasm that would take an hour to explain and reverberate the beauty of the lines of Shakespeare, but we've got a very short period of time here. I just want to let the folks know how I got introduced to Shakespeare. And the silly question that I asked at the time, I remember I was about 13 years old and I saw an early production many years ago of the Royal Shakespeare Company doing Macbeth. And they had hired an illusionist to do the magical effects for Macbeth. And I was just a young boy and I saw this production and I was absolutely blown away with this very early production of the RSC. And I asked my family members, this guy, Shakespeare, has he written anything else? I just wonder. Famously, you know, my students always laugh when I tell that story, but that was my first introduction. And I had an excellent Shakespeare professor in my high school who initially began my enjoyment of Shakespeare with the play The Merchant of Venice. And that was a very favorite professor of mine. So in tribute to that professor, I also begin my own classes when I teach Shakespeare with The Merchant of Venice. And I like to say this about Shakespeare. He is now more relevant than ever. I would argue that he is more relevant than ever. We need him. The pandemic has brought dysfunction, fear, pain, sorrow, but it's also brought brilliant creativity and enduring courage. Think about the genius of Shakespeare's linguistics and his poetry, the sheer exuberance of the vocabulary, the extraordinary reach of his imagination. And he teaches us how to live. He assures us that despite our status as imperfect creatures, there is always room for redemption. He examines the gamut of human emotions, and we are left with an inescapable conclusion that in the area of love, he has few equals that spread that message more convincingly. He's also even-handed in topics such as racial injustice and problems with ethnicity, like we have in The Merchant of Venice and in Othello and in other plays, where we have characters like Morocco. He tries to balance those views. There are brilliant portrayals of the psychology of villainy and malice. And I could go on and on about lots of things. Now, a lot of folks generally think of Shakespeare as a dramatist. If you ask the average guy on the street, I mean, who's Shakespeare? But I think he's the guy who wrote those plays. And, can you name something? Can you quote something? Most people would probably quote To Be or Not to Be. That is the question, or something of that ilk. What I like to remind students is also that more than the dramatist element of Shakespeare, that he was a magnificent poet. And he had a way of putting together the syntax and diction of the language, 400 years old, early modern England, in such a way that it's so spectacular that I couldn't even imagine coming up with an idea like that. So I'm going to leave this. I've got other things to say if we come back in the discussion, but I always like to use this example because this is one of the best examples of why I tell students, and that's why Shakespeare has sales in excess of 4 billion copies in the Guinness Book of World Records as the world's best-selling playwright. He's also got the most number of mentions as author in the IMDb TV database and the movie database, as you can imagine. But here's the thing. If you know the play Measure for Measure, I want you to think about this play if you've ever read it. In this play, there is a deputy duke named Angelo. And in the storyline, at one point, Claudio, who has got Juliet with child, is about to get his head chopped off, right? Now, if I were warning someone about getting your head chopped off by this deputy duke, who's a very strict persona in the play, I might say something like, hey, be careful, man. They're going to execute you tomorrow or whatever. That's the way I might say it. That's how we might say it in the 21st century. But listen to this line of how Shakespeare describes that moment. So this is Lucio speaking to Claudio in the play Measure for Measure. thy head stands so tickle on thy shoulders that a milkmaid, if she be in love, may sigh it off. Send after the Duke and appeal to him. Just think about the imaginative idea of that line, that a man's head is hanging by a fibrous tissue so precariously that the sigh of a milkmaid in love would actually knock his head off. It wouldn't require an axe. It wouldn't require the executioner. A beautiful woman comes up to you and goes, ah, and your head falls off. That is the power of Shakespeare. Marcia, you're muted.
I know. No, I'm sorry. And I disappeared for a while because something happens on Zoom. Okay, here we are. Thank you. Thanks, Mickey. It's now my pleasure to introduce Dr. Wendy Hennigan from Tennessee State University. Wendy is a specialist not only in Shakespeare, but also in medieval studies, and she has a wonderful backdrop of the globe, the modern globe. So Wendy, why the 21st century? Why Shakespeare in the 21st century?
I'm a medieval nerd. I would go to see something that's 400 years old just because it's 400 years old. But the fact is, these are good plays. They're entertaining, they're riveting. And sometimes we lose sight of that because we're introduced to these plays as words on the page and not acting on the stage. And if we see them staged, they become something entirely different. But besides that, Shakespeare asks a lot of questions. Like, what makes people evil? Why do people do evil things? Why and how do people fall in love? And tries to work through those things and never quite gives us an answer. Richard III, for instance, in the play, talks about the fact that since he isn't good looking, since he's hunchbacked and he's got a withered arm, he can't be a lover, therefore he's going to be a villain. But we find out a couple scenes later he can be a lover. Yet he still decides to be a villain, and we're not ever quite sure why. And don't get me started on Iago, he's even worse, trying to figure him out. But why do people fall in love? Romeo sees Juliet and forgets about his other girlfriends who's somewhere in the room. But on the other hand, Beatrice and Benedict just decide to love each other after being prompted slightly by their friends. But still, it's a decision. And in the end, when that decision is challenged, they choose it again. But what made them fall in love, really? And that's never really answered. And just trying to puzzle these things out, I think, draws people in. I could go on, but we all could go on. So I will.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. There's a really good, yes. Shakespeare gives us puzzles and we like to come back and figure them out again and again. And then it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Samantha Morgan Curtis. Dr. Morgan Curtis is the interim dean of the College of Liberal Arts at Tennessee State University, has been there for, I guess, about 20 years, a little less than, okay. And Sam has a wonderful backdrop of Stratford upon Avon behind her. And Sam's also interested in women's studies along with Shakespeare. So how do you answer that question?
Well, first of all, I have the backdrop because Shakespeare is all about that willing suspension of disbelief. You know, Coleridge would love virtual backdrops and Shakespeare would love 2020 because it has all of the elements, the ingredients that he loved. First of all, the man knew how to put on a show during a pandemic. And really, when you think about it, the pandemic he dealt with was a little more graphic than ours. And he understood that human motivations, as Dr. Hennigan was saying, human motivations cannot be made clean and neat and set. And I always tell my students, even the ones who come to me, first of all, assuming that they hate Shakespeare because they've been spoon fed it and said, this is what this means, and this is what this looks like. And the first thing we do is we talk about, and we're like, really? How do we know that that's what it means? Why can't we do this? And that so many of their favorite film genres, I would argue, go straight back to Shakespeare. You love romantic comedies? You know, Dr. Hennepin mentioned Much Ado About Nothing, Benedict and Beatrice. You love battle scenes? Henry V. Sir Laurence Olivier and Kenneth Branagh both knew that good battle scenes kick butt. Do you like people who lie and sneak and cheat? Well, you know, and politics. We've got dozens of those throughout. And the wonderful thing about Shakespeare is that with all of these big, huge characters, some of the most important moments, some of the most telling moments are small. In Henry V, we're seeing the creation of the great king, but we feel more about him when we see him trying to woo Catherine, knowing that it's an arranged marriage, but he wants a human connection. So it's how that tiny, that small is emblematic of the larger. I mean, why wouldn't we want to watch Shakespeare? And plus, just flat out, 10 Things I Hate About You is the greatest modern adaptation of Shakespeare ever, and I'll go up against anybody who wants to fight.
Okay. We may come back to that. I would just add to all the wonderful ideas that you've heard. The one thing that I find kind of intriguing about Shakespeare is that Shakespeare himself looked back. He kept plundering the classical world, the medieval world, you know, moldy tales, as he says at one point, for his plots that he made then contemporary for his audience. Julius Caesar can really probably had some interesting moments for those late Elizabethans, as did Henry V. What happens with the change of rulers? What were women's roles going to be like? All those comedies that picked up on some kind of romance themes. You know, who's going to play what role? So I think it's a kind of a nice prodding for us that some of the stories human beings and some of the histories that human beings have been wrestling with, that they were wrestling with in Shakespeare's day, are things that we can still learn from by wrestling with them. I'll just, one example of this is Hamlet. I'll pick up Hamlet here, where Hamlet's kind of struggling with, do I move forward with this assassination of Claudius or not? And what does he do? He goes back and he thinks about the end of the Trojan War, and probably as maybe Marlowe had shaped it possibly. And because he needs to think through those characters and what happened when Troy burned, and did Hecuba cry? And what might my mother do? So that kind of using things from stories out of what we may feel like is our past, but actually can illuminate the present. I think that, yeah, Shakespeare had a clue. That now, I don't think he had a clue that he would be being performed. I'm not sure about that, because he didn't leave us a collection of plays with stage directions and, you know, please do this, please. So that opens the door for the kind of wonderful creations that the Nashville Shakespeare Festival and other Shakespeare festivals can put on. But let me just open the floor. So what did you hear, or what would you say, or what do you want to add to about, we've got 3 more minutes before Denise comes back on. So
I was going to say, Dr. McDonald, how can you leave out the greatest stage direction in drama, exit chased by a bear?
Well, that's true. Yes.
I don't know. Hell is Discovered is a good one too.
Yeah.
There's the one from Titus that I can't quite pull out of my head about enter a servant carrying two heads or something like that. I mean, there's some wonderful stage directions. They're few and far between, but they're fabulous.
Yeah, that's true.
One of the things I'd like to piggyback on is Dr. Morgan Curtis's note that Shakespeare is doing genre things that we're still doing today.
Mhm.
I'm teaching the Gothic novel right now. I'm teaching the Castle of Otranto, which says it's something new. It says it's trying to create something where you have the fantastic and real people reacting realistically to the fantastic. But he's quoting Hamlet, he's quoting Macbeth. And then in the second edition preface, when somebody calls Walpole on you can't do this, his justification is Shakespeare did it. So the Gothic has its roots in Shakespeare. So a lot of literature is Shakespeare's grandchildren.
And well, okay, I'll take Dr. Morgan Curtis's challenge and say, the best modern adaptation of in other words, Shakespeare keeps giving us these, as he gave so many people through the years, the plots that they needed to replay in some way. I
was going to say, I was thinking too, just to show how contemporary he is, everyone, there was this tiny play that I think many people watched this summer on Disney Plus called Hamilton. I don't know if you've heard of it. But
that little thing.
That little thing. But right after Hamilton broke, there was a great tweet that Lin-Manuel Miranda put up that someone driving through the streets in New York hung out the side of their car and yelled, "Congratulations on writing Hamlet." And Lin-Manuel Miranda left that pinned tweet for forever because he said he yelled after the person, "I wish I'd written Hamlet."
If we have a second, I have one more if we're doing film versions. Billy Morissette's Scotland, PA, which is the most hilarious updating of Macbeth that takes food in essentially a fast food restaurant.
That's a great addition. I will close out on a little more solemn note, but I watched the funeral services for John Lewis, and 3 times lines from Shakespeare were used. Twice it was the Flights of Angels, "Good night, sweet prince, flights of angels, sing thee to thy rest." And then once the lines that Juliet says about Romeo, about he will be as part of the stars. And I thought that was remarkable, that it was the language of Shakespeare that gave the resonance to some of those moments. Thank you all very much. I hope this has been a good invitation for those of you watching to come for Insight next summer. And let me turn it back over to Denise.
Thank you. Thank you, Marcia, and all of our amazing scholars, Julia and Mickey and Sam and Wendy. Thank you so much. As you have all attested, Shakespeare is an ever-blooming lotus of awe and wonder. And I can't wait to hear all of you talk more about common passion. If you're just joining us, welcome. Tonight, the Nashville Shakespeare Festival is celebrating 33 years of Summer Shakespeare. We just had some insight from our scholarly friends, and now we will have pre-show music like we usually do. But this year it is hosted by a dancing multi-instrumental musician, Franco Hashiguchi, who also happens to be the NSF grant and donor manager. All right, take it away, Franco.
Hello, welcome to the Bards in the Round portion of tonight's festivities. I'll be your host, Franco Hashiguchi, grant and donor manager of the Nashville Shakespeare Festival. You'll be delighted by a sampling of the fine musicians who help us bring Shakespeare to life as only Nashville can, with live original works performed nightly for you our loyal audience. Get a feel for being there on a grassy field with family, friends, and a diverse group of no longer strangers. We thought it would be appropriate to show you a brief clip that our friends at Nashville Public Television created, describing Summer Shakespeare and paying tribute to our friend David Olney, one of our frequent contributors who departed from us this past year. Please enjoy.
It's Shakespeare performed in a way that you can only expect in Music City. Join me as we learn more about the Nashville Shakespeare Festival's production of As You Like It on this week's Arts Break.
One man in his time plays many parts, huh?
As You Like It is Shakespeare's most romantic country musical comedy.
Good even to you, friend.
And to you, gentle sir, and to y'all.
Shakespeare wrote 4 or 5 songs that are actually in the play, and all we have of those are the lyrics and no music to go with it. We, the Nashville Shakespeare Festival, are so fortunate to have this association with one of the most respected songwriters in the business. So many people look to David's talents for inspiration, and the way he tells a story in a song is poetic and beautiful.
Diddy one, diddy one, diddy one, diddy do.
They have updated the play into 1934 Middle Tennessee. So one of my jobs was the songs that were already there, to kind of update them and make them appropriate for that period of time.
Under the greenwood tree.
It would have been very strange sounding to sing these Shakespearean songs during a period when people didn't sing like that.
And then, much to my delight and surprise, David wrote some original songs that complement this concept.
Ain't it that way?
Ain't it that way?
Ain't It That Way is a very kind of a bluesy Americana song. And we use it to set the table for the Duke's banquet. It's a rhythmic sort of almost like a work song. And so as they're setting out these metal plates and metal cups and metal spoons, it creates the rhythm of the song and also creates this banquet where they all share a pot of beans.
Well, ain't it that way?
The other original piece that David wrote for this is called Billy Shakes.
I went down to Billy Shakes, hey, Nonny.
And it sort of likens the intoxication of Shakespeare's poetry to a speakeasy or some sort of moonshine. What's in this drink that makes it so hey nonny is the lyric, and it's playful and it has that kind of old-timey blues feel and all the double entendres that Shakespeare uses that David masters. It's a really, really wonderful match for David to be playing on the ends and then to have his original music to really enhance this story.
If we were together in the park right now, our longtime friend and collaborator Tom Mason would be in the actor's green room, getting into costume and stage makeup, checking and rechecking his guitar and wireless rig, and perhaps going over his lines one more time just in case. Tonight he is here to introduce himself to you and give us a little taste of what he had planned for this summer that will be now in 2021.
Hello, my name is Tom Mason, and I am extremely excited. I've been cast in Nashville Shakespeare Festival's 2021 production of What You Will, aka Twelfth Night, and I'm going to be playing Feste the Fool. I've always loved the summer productions. It's one of the things that makes our city great, so this is a dream come true for me. Not only am I going to be acting, but I'm also going to be composing music and writing songs for it with my good friend Jack Kingsley, as well as a little help from William Shakespeare. Here's a song that the three of us wrote called Mistress Mine. Oh, Mistress Mine, where are you roaming? Stay here, your true love coming. They can sing both high and low. further, pretty sweet sing, journeys and lovers meeting. Every wise man's son doth know. Oh, mistress mine, mistress mine, what is love? 'Tis not hereafter, present mirth hath present laughter. What's to come is still unsure. In delay there lies no plenty, so come and kiss me, sweet and 20. Youth's a stuff that will not endure. Oh, mistress mine, mistress mine, mistress mine, mistress mine.
Well, I think you can see why Tom Mason is such a sought-after musician in Nashville's local scene. That is, when he isn't traveling the globe as the captain of the pirate band Tom Mason and the Blue Buccaneers. You can find him online at tommason.net or facebook.com/Tom Mason and the Blue Buccaneers. Next up, our very own Katie Bruno, NSF Education Director, will serenade you with her setting of Shakespeare's Sonnet 80 to music. Along with his many plays, he also wrote many other poems, most famously the sonnets.
Oh, how I faint when I of you do write, knowing the better spirit doth use your name. And in the praise thereof spends all his might to make me tongue-tied speaking of your fame. But since your worth wide as the ocean is, the humble as the proudest sail doth bear, my saucy bark inferior far to his, on your broad main doth wilfully appear. Your shallowest help will hold me up afloat, whilst he open your soundless deep doth ride. Or being wrecked, I am a worthless boat, he of tall building and of goodly pride. Then if he thrive and I be cast away, the worst was this, my love was my decay.
Hey, thank you, Katie. You'll be seeing more of her in the portion of our show regarding the Apprentice Company, and you can also discover more about Shakespeare and what you can do by going to our website, nashvilleshakes.org. Now, for another moment to get you in tune with how the festival feels, here is the sheep shearing song from Summer Shakespeare 2017, The Winter's Tale, directed by Santiago Sosa, with music by Natalie Bell. The production is set in Latin America during the time of Simón Bolívar and included many references to Latin American culture of the early 19th century. Next up, we have Taylor Kelly, reprising a song he sang from a recent production. It was an all-star cast, thoroughly infused with music and set in a stylized version of Nashville from a near-distant past. Replete with ne'er-do-wells, saloons, and all manner of neighborly folk. But we'll let Taylor tell you about his character and about the play.
My name is Taylor Kelly, and I have the absolute honor of playing a song for you tonight called Teach Me Dear Creature, written by Jack Kingsley for our 2016 production of Comedy of Errors in the Park. So this song is being sung from the perspective of Antipholus of Syracuse, who is in a new city that he's never been to before called Ephesus. He's met this woman who he's beginning to fall for, but she thinks that he is someone else. You'll kind of get the idea of what all is going on as I sing, and I hope you enjoy Teach Me Dear Creature. Sweet mistress, I don't know your name or what you're talking about, but how you know the things you do really freaks me out. Why you trying to make me believe what I know ain't true, when I know you're for me and I'm for you? Teach me, dear creature, how to think and speak. My head is spinning round and round, my knees are weak. I wandered here a stranger, such a crazy scene. So lay it on me, just what do you mean? Babe, I know just who I am. Your sister's not my wife, but with you on the other hand, I gladly spend my life. Don't talk to me about her when it's you my heart desires, and I lay my life down for your love until our days expire. Teach me, dear creature, how to think and speak. My head is spinning round and round, my knees are weak. I wandered in a stranger to such a crazy scene. So lay it on, just what do you mean? All right. So lay it on me, just what do you mean? Come on, mama, won't you be my queen?
Thank you, Taylor, for gracing us with your talents. Always a pleasure. And if any of you wish to, you can Venmo him at rtaylorkelly and have a link in the chat. Now, thank you also to Jack Kingsley for writing it for us. You can find this and many more songs like it in the Music of the Nashville Shakespeare Festival album. Go to nashvilleshakes.org and click on the link for the Music of NSF. To continue with a bit more comedy, here are the Rude Mechanicals from the 2018 production of A Midsummer Night's Dream, directed by Jacqueline Judding, with music composition and direction by Raleigh Maines. The Rude Mechanicals are comprised of some of the members of the 2018 Apprentice Company. Remember, more of the Apprentice Company to follow. But for now, are you ready for one more sneak peek from Tom Mason? Here's another song that he wrote for us.
Here's another song I wrote with Jack Kingsley and Will Shakespeare for the play What You Will, aka Twelfth Night. It's called Come Away Death. Come away, death, and in sad cypress let me be laid. Fly away, breath. I am slain by a fair cruel maid, my shroud of white stuck on with you. Whoa, prepare it. My part of death, no one so true. Oh, did share it. Come away, death. Come away, death. Not a flower sweet on my black coffin, let there be strewn. Not a friend greets my poor corpse where my bones will be thrown. A thousand sighs to say, lay me, oh well. Sad true lover never find my grave to weep there. Come away, death. Come away, death. Can't wait for 2021.
Look for Tom Mason as Festi in Summer Shakespeare's 2021 production of What You Will, aka Twelfth Night, by William Shakespeare, directed by Jim Warren, the founding artistic director of the American Shakespeare Center, and with music direction by Tom Mason. Thanks for joining us for this portion of the show, Bards in the Round. And please stay tuned for the Apprentice Company showcase after this final bit of magic from the closing scene of Summer Shakespeare 2019's The Tempest, directed by Denise Hicks and music by NSF composer Raleigh Maines.
Honor, riches, marriage, blessing, long continuance and increasing hourly joys be still upon you. Do no cease, her blessings upon you. Spring come to you at the farthest day, the very end of harvest, scarcity and want shall show you. Siri blessing is upon you. Honor, riches, marriage, blessing, long continuance and increasing hourly joys be still upon you. Do no cease, her blessings upon you. Spring comes to you at the farthest day, the very end of harvest, scarcity and want shall show you. Siri blessing is upon you. Honor, riches, marriage, blessing, long continuance and increasing hourly joys be still upon you. Do no cease, her blessings upon you. Freedom, freedom, hey, hey, freedom, 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 hey, hey, freedom, 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 hey,
I'm Carrie Brewer, the Marketing Director for Nashville Shakes. I wanted to take just a minute to thank our major sponsors, the Tennessee Arts Commission, the Metro Nashville Arts Commission, the Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee, and Jackson National Life Insurance Company, without whom we wouldn't be here today. We also received support from Cat Financial, the Arcana Foundation, Dodson Parker, Bem and Caparella, the First Horizon Foundation, and of course our location sponsors for Summer Shakespeare, One City, and Williamson County Parks and Recreation. Thanks also goes out to Vanderbilt University, Bradfield Stage Lighting, Jive, Frothy Monkey, and White Heart Inc. for their continued support throughout the years. And of course, to individual donors like you. We hope you're enjoying the program tonight. Before we continue, we wanted to give you a little reminder that you can help support the Tennessee Arts Commission by buying a license plate for your car. Here's a little ad for Arts Plate.
Don't be just another number. Get an arts plate for your car or truck. Funding from the plate goes to arts programming in schools and communities across Tennessee. Tell the world you support the arts.
Thank you so much, Carrie. That is, she is the most amazing marketing director a company could ever have. And I hope she knows she's an awesome friend as well. And Franco, thank you. And friends, music is and always will be a huge part, an essential part of the Nashville Shakespeare Festival. So I hope you enjoyed that, that smorgasbord of music. Our next section is about our Apprentice Company. In 1999, we started the Nashville Shakespeare Festival Apprentice Company training program. We have so many young people in Nashville who are eager to learn about and perform Shakespeare. And among our actors and directors and designers and technicians, we have some really wonderful mentors. So we put that together and we created this intensive training program. Through the years, with the skills and knowledge of many Apprentice Company directors and teachers and students themselves, we have refined this training to be intensive and useful. Over 200 artists have come through our Apprentice Company training program, and many have gone on to successful careers in the theater and in education and law and medicine and many other fields. What we know for sure is that Shakespeare training prepares you for life. So now I would like to introduce to you our 2020 Apprentice Company Director, Sam Ashdown, and our Nashville Shakespeare Festival Education Director, Katie Bruno. Hey, friends.
Hello. Thanks, Denise. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hey, Sam. Hey, Carrie. I think Jordan is coming on there soon. Thank you so much. We're so happy to be here. I'm very, very excited to share and report back about this year's 2020 virtual Apprentice Company. I had the privilege and the pleasure of training as an apprentice in the summer of 2018. So it was just a joy to return this year as a teacher and as a coach for our training that we offered this year. So it's been a pleasure. I'm going to have everybody introduce themselves. So Sam, take it away.
Hello, my name is Sam Ashdown. I'm coming to you right now from Oregon, even though I am based out of Nashville, Tennessee. I was the APCO director this summer, and I taught a couple different workshops. I taught a positive assessment workshop, an essential actions workshop, a new play development workshop, and I also coached small groups on their Shakespeare monologues.
Great. Carrie, tell us about it. Oh, muted.
Gosh, you'd think I would know this, right? I am a stage combat teacher. Yeah, I live in Nashville, and that's where I am right now. Before that, I was in New York and Los Angeles, but I've been here for a little bit. Obviously, y'all just saw me as the marketing director too, but this is one of the many hats that I get to wear with Nashville Shakes.
Awesome. Jordan! The camera works. Go ahead and introduce yourself when you're ready.
Yes, I had another camera app open. That's what happened. What's up, y'all? My name is Jordan Gleaves. I am from Evans, Georgia, but I live out here in Chicago now. And I got to teach Shakespeare at a glance, like acting tips and things to get with the students. So kind of like a cold reading in a way, but also if you had a script that you had to get, and you had to like, go back and work it for 10 minutes. Like what are some quick things that you can grab from the monologue and bring the character to life.
Wonderful. And we're going to see and hear a little bit more from all of our teaching artists that are currently here. And there are many more who may be tuning in or weren't able to join us tonight. So a big thank you to all the teaching artists that tuned in from across the country to help us this year. Before we go any further, I just wanted to take a second to lift up all of the teachers in the world and all of the students in the world, way up, who are trying to learn right now and maybe struggling, and maybe some things are going well. But sincerely, I wanted to say that we, as the Nashville Shakespeare Festival, we see you, we hear you, and we support you. And I spent the afternoon on the phone with a teacher that we're trying to help in any way that we can. So I want to extend this offer to either continue a conversation that we've had with your school, your classroom, your district, or start the conversation if we haven't had one before. So please feel free to reach out to us if you're a teacher right now looking for resources for theater in general, or for Shakespeare if you've got a soft spot for Shakespeare. I had to give you a little props for all the things that you're doing for our young people and students of all ages right now. So moving on, I wanted to share a couple fun facts about this year's Apprentice Company. So we had 20 apprentices, which I believe is maybe the highest number of apprentices that have gone through the training program. And perhaps this virtual format is what allowed that to be possible. In person, it would have been a full classroom, but not that it wasn't a full happy classroom on our screens. So those 20 apprentices, here's some numbers for you. They met for 5 hours a night, 6 nights a week for 2 full weeks. And those weeks and those nights rehearsals ended in a share case, which is a wonderful term that I love that Denise coined, that celebrates the process of working on pieces, as opposed to even progress or like some final, like you're trying to reach the peak of something. And instead we're embracing the journey of working, especially on Shakespeare pieces, that we always discover something new. So this was a wonderful way to celebrate. And in a little bit, you're going to get to see some footage of all 20 of our amazing apprentices from the 15th that was recorded. So those are some fun facts. Now, our apprentices, some were based in cities here in Nashville and surrounding Nashville, but we had apprentices in Florida, in New York, and in California, which is so cool because how else would we have been able to do that but this format? So thanks for that. That's a silver lining. And of course, our teaching artists as well were able to tune in from several states. Like Sam said, from Oregon, Jordan from Chicago, Marco, who might be joining us he was in San Diego and then he moved to Utah. We are just so grateful to those who took the time to help our students and encourage their creativity. So now we're going to take a second and dive in a little bit deeper into each of these teachers' offerings during our training. We had 5 whole hours, which sometimes flies by, and sometimes you can pack a lot of information into a 5-hour evening. So let's see. Who wants to go first? Sam, do you want to share?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So a bit about the classes. So I was at every lesson that happened, every class that happened. Both Katie, myself, and Denise were present for all the classes as a resource to the students and also to help support the teachers that were there and adjusting to this new online format. So I taught a positive assessment class first, which is something that I got from an acting teacher named Bob Anderson, who Jordan actually also knows. And it's a way for students to actively stay positive with themselves and at work and in process. So it's a tool that we use throughout the training. And then I taught an essential actions class, which was where we look at what's in the text before you add any sort of interpretation on top of it. So just what is written before we start interpreting what we think that means, just what is actually written on the page. And then we did a new play development workshop on a play called Waiting for Will, which is a play that I wrote for this. It was going to premiere this summer. It follows Shakespeare's historical acting troupe, Waiting for William Shakespeare's latest play. And it was so fun to get to workshop that with the apprentices. We split into two groups of 10, and they each actually performed the play. They had an hour to rehearse it on their own and perform it for each other, which was really fun and cool to get to see and hear that play. And then I was coaching small groups on their Shakespeare monologues. These were monologues that they were assigned the week before we started training, and they worked on throughout the 2-week training process. And they all performed those for their share case on the 15th, which was great.
Yes, and Sam, I'll just echo that. The positive assessment, it helped us frame our kind of reflections and our conversations, not only when we were sharing in small groups. We used that breakout room function like so much, and it was so helpful. But it helped us create a framework, and I loved watching and hearing the apprentices support one another so that they could put together a positive assessment for themselves. And just be just as supportive. When they were able to support others, they were able to support themselves better, I think. And it really gave them a framework and a vocabulary for that. And honestly, the idea of ensemble is something in an Apprentice Company training that when you're spending all those hours together, if you were in person, and you're sweating together and you're crying together and you're figuring things out and you're sweating in the park and you're trying out, all of those things that come with live theater, that come with outdoor theater, that come with Shakespeare. I am so proud and so delighted to share the ensemble that was created amongst these students and the teachers. And I think it's because of that support, the positivity, the openness, and everyone just felt like they could be themselves and that they could be vulnerable. And we heard that feedback from the apprentices over and over again, which is just so wonderful and heartwarming and gave me a lot of hope and inspiration, honestly, to keep these kinds of offerings coming. So thank you, Sam, for sharing that with us. Yay, 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 yay. All right, Jordan, do you want to talk a little bit more about your character interviews or any part of your lesson that you want to share?
Yeah. So part of one thing that I love to hold on to, bringing up Bob Anderson again, a professor that Sam and I both had, is working on goals in the class. Like, I had the students set a goal they wanted to accomplish in this class. And to give them an example of mine was to have them, when they left the program, to be able to walk into any room, audition room, whatever it may be, room where Shakespeare's being worked in, and be able to grab a text and say to themselves, I got this. And so through that, working with the students on, as I was saying earlier, things to grab from the text, what are some quick things that you can grab? So we worked through a list of 7 things. Some of those were, the given circumstances that their character's going through. What do we know in the text already the character's dealing with? Maybe their name, maybe their status. If they're a lover, who do they have feelings for? Other things were literally, if their monologue had lists, if it was, I am a prince, I like chocolate, and I am from a far, far away land. Operating those lists, so when they walk into the audition room, the casting director, whomever may be in the room, can quickly see, okay, they know how to work scansion, they know how to identify a list, they know how to identify the given circumstances, the operative, or as I talk to them, like the main idea, the theme in that thought. And so we worked through that for a class session, had them break out and use their own monologues and apply that after working through some sample texts. And with the character interviews, that was something that I had also pulled from my program in grad school at University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. And this thing with backstory, having the students develop a backstory with their character to make them feel more connected with their character, more sunk in. These characters live lives, and so encouraging them to, as the actor, dig into that character's life. Who are they? What do we know from the text? But then also showing that there is freedom in making up what you don't know. What's not in the text. What is Hamlet's favorite color? We may not know that in the text, but making Hamlet that actor, making Hamlet their own. So Hamlet's favorite color, Hamlet's favorite childhood memories, perhaps. And then actually having them come back after working with each other in groups and us interviewing them, asking them a certain set of questions, whether they knew what those questions were or made up on the spot, and further teaching them and showing them that, an actor should always be prepared. When you go on stage, like, that character knows who their life is. So as the actor, you should know what that character's life is and build it as your own and make the character your own, have agency over that character. And I gotta say, I think it was a very successful, just going there and having fun, being a kid again, I would say.
Absolutely. And it was so fun to hop around in the rooms and watch that the student interviewing the character almost having just as much fun and having to improv and say yes, and as they learned more and more about whichever character was speaking. And we used the pin video so that they could really focus on the one person that they were looking at. I found that to be a blast to watch, but also it really seemed to deepen the work when we continued to watch the monologues grow. And yeah, thank you, Jordan. All right, Carrie, want to tell us about your class?
Yes. So stage combat, when you guys asked me to do it, I was like, oh man, how do you do stage combat on a screen? Because most of the time when I start teaching, the first thing that I go with is like, okay, partnership. We're two people telling a really great, convincing story safely together. So we do lots of partnering exercises. And so I was like, okay, but clearly there's a personal component to it. So we focused on reactions in the one workshop that I got with these guys, and they were all so fantastic. So just talking about, well, we had to sort of go through the basics for some that had never had any stage combat before. There was a huge range of experience. So, we just talked about setting up a basic slap and then went through all those components, because there are the physical and kind of, just technical elements of reacting, right? Are you going in the same direction? And the timing of it and all that stuff that makes it work visually. But then I wanted to take it one step further, and we went into like the emotions, the emotional part of it, and how your character would feel about like getting punched in the nose, right? What if it's, completely comes out of the blue and it shocks you, or you get instantly really angry and it makes you want to fight back, or it makes you laugh as your defense, right? Because you can't believe that just happened, or whatever. I mean, there are 1,000 ways that your character could respond. So we played a game, and we used those breakout rooms in my workshop too. It was really cool. Well, there were two things. The first game that we played is giving everybody a thing that had happened to them and a level. Like on a scale of 1 to 10, you got pinched in the arm at a level 2, right? Or you got head-butted in the nose at a level 9. So, and then they need to use their voices. They need to use their the body, the isolation, to show us exactly what happened and how much it hurt, and then everybody had to guess. So I private messaged everybody their thing, and then everybody kind of guessed. So that was fun. And then we did, I don't know if I know obviously you guys did, but everyone else out there in the world who's watching this, you've seen those really cool stunt videos that have been traveling around the internet during the pandemic, right? Where somebody would punch somebody else, right? And they would have this huge reaction. They would come back with, like, I have a pen in front of me, right? I'm going to stab you. And then somebody else would take that stab and do something. There's so much fun. And there were 1,000 renditions of it. So we kind of did a mini version of that. And well, you know what I thought would be sort of neat? Again, everybody else out there right now, why don't you follow along with me? And we'll do a quick slap and then a jab to the nose, right? So here are the components I want everybody to think of. Obviously, my slap is just going to be on a scale of 1 to 10, level 5, and it's going to go in that direction. Yes, wherever you are in your screen. Yeah. And then bring your eyes back to me so that you can see my fist punching you. And we're going to do like, I don't know, imagine you got punched in the face. What would it do to your head? How hard does it hit you? Let's say that this punch is a level 7, right? So you need to know your emotional reaction, your physical reaction, and then try to get the timing. So let's just play real quick. Okay, here we go. Yeah. I love the delay. That always makes me laugh. Anyway, that's what we did. And it was really fun.
It was so fun. And it was another way to get the students like further than a foot away from their screen. So
Right.
they were really using the spaces around them. They had several opportunities to do that as well. So the fight workshop was one of them. They were throwing kicks and punches and, like you said, all of the various ways to combat another. But we also had them dancing, doing yoga. They had a Suzuki lesson with Renee Mian, which who would have thought you could do Suzuki? But I mean, the way that our movement exercises translated, I thought were great. They did a really wonderful punctuation dance where they assigned a certain movement to a certain piece of punctuation and then put those together. So I believe you'll see a few of those in the footage we're about to show you, as well as you'll hear some of the students reading some of their original sonnets. So our teacher, Marco Vega, led a creative writing workshop and encouraged our students to write a sonnet and either use the form or let go of the form and just write. And it was one of the most memorable pieces, I think, for me of this year was getting to hear all of our students share these amazing pieces that that just kind of poured out of them. Yes, Denise.
I just want to add a little bit more about the individual coaching that we did, because we were so honored to have Jim Warren with us from Virginia. I mean, he's here some, and we bring him here as often as we can. But he tuned in, and the individual coaching is really thrilling because after they get all of these skills from all of the different workshops, we meet them in these smaller breakout rooms where they are. And we coach them from where each individual artist is in their monologue, and just advance them with everything, reminding them of everything they've learned, and then what we see, and positive feedback. And they also get, like the smaller groups are maybe 3 to 5 or so, but they get peer encouragement as well as director feedback. And so I feel like that is, for me, is just so rewarding to watch a piece go from where they think they know what they're doing to where they have these skills and techniques to apply and push it and just advance their work. So I really loved being there for the workshops so that I could learn the vocabulary that all of these, we had 9 or 10 different teaching artists giving information and all kinds of worksheets and everything, and then to take it into these individual sessions, I felt was really fun, and that's where we got to see like the rewards of the work.
Absolutely. And Robert, we are ready to watch the APCO 2020 Share Case.
Greetings. I'm Gwynlee Brady from Nashville, Tennessee.
Hello, I'm Dorian Marin from Nashville, Tennessee.
Hi, I'm Storm Sloan and I'm from Nashville, Tennessee.
Hi, I'm Alex Crutanis and I'm from Nashville, Tennessee.
Hello, I'm Maggie Blackburn from Clarksville, Tennessee.
Hello, I'm Meryl Smetana and I'm in Spring Hill, Tennessee.
I'm Evelyn Bunce and I live in Franklin, Tennessee.
I'm Deanna High, and I am in Nashville, Tennessee.
My name is Emma Harvey, and I live in Hendersonville, Tennessee.
My name is Christian Cooper, and I'm streaming to you from Sanibel, Florida.
Hello, my name is Ava Glover, and I am from Nashville, Tennessee.
Hi, my name is Jonathan Thompson, and I'm from Spring Hill, Tennessee.
I'm Victoria Thompson, and I'm from Spring Hill, Tennessee.
Hey, I'm Terry Barnhill, coming at you from Brooklyn, New York.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Whitney from Laguna Niguel, California.
I'm Keelan Farrell, and I am in Nashville, Tennessee.
I'm Mirabelle Banks, and I am from Brentwood, Tennessee.
Hi there, my name is Emma Reinbold, and I am in Nashville, Tennessee.
Hello, my name is Colin Harwood, and I'm from Reedville, Tennessee.
Hi there, I'm Chloe Lamar, and I'm from Nashville, Tennessee.
This is Juliet from Romeo and Juliet. Thou know'st the mask of night is on my face, else would a maiden blush bepaint my cheek for that which thou hast heard me speak tonight. Fain would I dwell on form, fain deny what I have spoke, but farewell compliment. Dost thou love me? I know thou wilt say aye, and I will take thy word.
This is Henry V from Henry V. We are glad the Dauphin is so pleasant with us. His present and your pains we thank you for. We will in France, by God's grace, play a set shall strike his father's crown into the hazard. Tell him he hath made a match with such a wrangler that all the courts in France shall be disturbed with chases. And we.
This is Puck from A Midsummer Night's Dream.
My mistress with a monster is in love, near to her close and consecrated bower, while she was in her dull and sleeping hour. A crew of pashes, rude mechanicals, who work for bread upon Athenian stalls, were met together to rehearse a play intended for great Theseus's nuptial day.
This is Julia from The Two Gentlemen of Verona. Oh, hateful hands to tear such loving words, injurious wasps to feed on such sweet honey, and kill the bees that yield it with your stings. I'll kiss each several paper for amends. Look, here is writ, kind Julia.
This is Queen Margaret from Henry VI, Part 3. What? Was it you that would be England's king? Was't you that revelled in our parliament and made a preachment of your high descent? Where are your mess of sons to back you now?
This is Hamlet. Oh, what a rogue and peasant slave am I! Is it not monstrous that this player here, but in a fiction, in a dream of passion, could force his soul so to his own conceit that from her working all his visage want? Tears in his eyes, distraction in his aspect, a broken voice, and his whole function suiting with forms to his conceit, and all for nothing, for Hecuba.
Hello, this is Mark Antony from Julius Caesar. Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him. The evil that men do lives after them. The good is oft interred with their bones. So let it be with Caesar. The noble.
This is Phoebe from As You Like It.
I would not be thy executioner. I fly thee, for I would not injure thee. Thou
tell'st me there is murder in mine eye. 'Tis pretty sure and very probable that eyes which are the frailest and softest things, who shut their coward gates on atomies, should be railed tyrants, butchers, murderers.
Hi, this is Petruchio from The Taming of the Shrew. Thus have I politically begun my reign, and 'tis my hope to end successfully. My falcon now is sharp and passing empty, and till she stoop, she must not be full gorged, for then she never looks upon her lure.
This is Amelia from Othello. But I do think it is their husbands' fault if wives do fall. Say that they slack their duties or pour our treasures onto foreign laps, or else burst out in peevish jealousies, throwing restraint upon us. Or say they strike us, or scant our former having in despite. Why, we have galls, and though we have some grace, yet have we some revenge.
This is Helena from All's Well That Ends Well. Then I confess, here on my knee before high heaven and you, that before you and next unto high heaven, I love your son. My friends were poor, but honest. So is my love. Be not offended, for it hurts not him that he is loved of me. I follow him not by any token of presumptuous suit, nor would I have him till I do deserve him. Yet never...
This is Cresta from Troilus and Cressida. Hard to seem one, but I was one, my lord, with the first glance that ever... Pardon me, if I confess much, you will play the tyrant. I love you now, but not till now, so much but I might master it. In faith, I lie. My thoughts were like unbridled children grown too headstrong for their mother.
This is Princess of France from Love's Labour's Lost. A time methinks too short to make a world without end bargain in. No, no, my lord, your grace is perjured much, full of dear guiltiness. And therefore this, if for my love, as there is no such cause, you will do aught, this shall you do for me.
This is Ferdinand from The Tempest. Admired Miranda, indeed the top of admiration, worth what's dearest to the world. Full many a lady have I eyed with best regard, and many a time the harmony of their tongues hath into bondage brought my too diligent ear. For several virtues have I, like several women, never any with so fun soul, but some defect in her did quarrel with the noblest grace she owed, and put it to the foil.
This is Rosalind from As You Like It. And why, I pray you, who might be your mother, that you insult, exalt, and all at once o'er the wretched? But though you have no beauty, as by my faith, I see no more in you than without candle may go dark to bed. Must you be therefore proud and pitiless? Why, what means this?
Hello, this is Prince Hal from Henry IV, Part 1. I know you all, and will a while uphold the unyoked humor of your idleness. Yet herein will I imitate the sun, who doth permit the base contagious clouds to smother up his beauty from the world.
This is Hamlet. To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles and by opposing end them.
This is Casca from Julius Caesar. Are not you moved when all the sway of earth shakes like a thing unfirm? Oh, Cicero, I have seen tempests, when the scolding winds have rived the knotty oaks, and I have seen the ambitious ocean swell and rage and foam to be exalted with the threatening clouds.
This is Joan from Henry VI, Part 1. First, let me tell you whom you have condemned. Not me, begotten of a shepherd's swain, but issued from the progeny of kings, virtuous and holy, chosen from above, by inspiration of celestial grace to work exceeding miracles on earth.
This is Edgar from King Lear. I heard myself proclaimed, and by the happy hollow of a tree escaped the hunt. No port is free. No place that guard and most unusual vigilance does not attend my taking. Whilst I may escape, I will preserve myself.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations, apprentices! I guess we have a moment to just say our goodbyes until we bring on the next folks. Is that right, Denise?
Yeah. Do you want to talk about what you have coming up, like workshops coming up and whatever else is, I mean, you let the teachers know we're here for them, but let the people who are watching know about book club and Shakes Aloud and workshops and whatever else you want to talk about. Auditions for next year's Apprentice Company.
Absolutely. All those things are great. And I suggest that if you're interested in our book club, it's next week on Wednesday. So you can visit the website to find out. It's not too late. We've got our Shakes Aloud the first Saturday of every month. So it'll be September 5th, and we'll be reading King Lear and a few of our friends here. So Sam and two other of our teaching artists from Apprentice Company will be leading a Reviving Your Creativity workshop, which will take place next weekend over 3 nights. And so we'll have all the details up on our website tomorrow or Saturday early. And so check it out if you want to get on the list for those. We would love to have you if you are a Shakespearean actor or an intermediate actor or a Shakespeare enthusiast, whatever you are, we would love to have you. You are welcome with us. Everything else you'll find on our website. Just stay tuned, follow our Instagram, our Facebook, and yeah, Sam and I we'll keep you posted as soon as more exciting opportunities in education are available to you.
Sweet, great. Thank you so much, Katie, Sam, Jordan, Carrie, who's still watching. Thank you all so much. I mean, this is the greatest reward of our work, I feel, is watching young artists bloom through intensive training in Shakespeare. It's just, like I said, it prepares everyone for life. Yeah. So let's keep on keeping on. Great work. In this little pause we have, I would like to acknowledge, you see our Shakespeare logo down there. That's actually Robert Marigza. So he is hosting this this evening's celebration. He's the one who's showing people in and out and muting and unmuting, and he's sort of our Wizard of Oz this evening. The man behind the logo is Robert Marigza, who did his first show with the Nashville Shakespeare Festival in 1994. So in this next segment, as we are about to launch into celebrating 33 years of Shakespeare, know that Robert Marigza is a huge part of that, and we just are always grateful for his wonderful presence and patience and dedication. So, adios, mi amigos.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you. Such sweet sorrow. So now it's showtime, folks. We are going to take a look at the last 3 decades of Summer Shakespeare, 10 years at a time, with folks from each decade who have made these summers memorable. So this is all live. Let's see who's here to take a look at the years from 1988 to 1998. Oh my goodness. Hello, Jill Jackson, Donald Caparella, Helen Shute Petaway, my love, Tony McAllister. I am so happy to see you all. Once we are all gathered, we have iPhone, and we'll find out who iPhone is. It's a mystery guest. Once we're all gathered here, we're going to take a look at a short slideshow, which I think you will all see yourselves and your work in it. And then when we get back, we'll just sort of brainstorm, right? We'll let rain and thunder and lightning, everything that it's Phil Perry, Phil, who spans with so many of us all 3 decades of Shakespeare. So Robert, if this is everybody from the first decade, I think when you're ready, start the slideshow. And you guys, you can unmute now if you want to, because and share the memories even as you're seeing them. This wonderful building, right? There's Phil, right? Phil Perry. Phil Perry is Pericles. Any
My
other?
hero Pericles.
Yeah. Tony.
Oh my God.
Tony. Not sure that was a wig, right, Tony? Love it. Love it. Mary, so see the flags before we had banners.
Yeah, Carolyn German, Washington Dobbins. Yeah.
And there's Jill as the saucy Margaret in Much Ado About Nothing. Beautiful Mary. Mary is taking her daughter to college tonight, or she may jump in. Phil again with a ponytail. Is that Phil?
Yeah. There's the swordfish.
There it is. Our favorite prop.
I remember that show.
Yeah.
Set on the beach.
Midsummer.
There's Helen as Queen. There's Robert in his first role with us as Flute.
So gorgeous, Robert.
Yes. Tony directed this production of Macbeth, right, Tony?
I did, yes. Yeah.
And you said you weren't going to cast me, but then you did anyway.
I swore I would not cast you, and lo and behold, you made me do it.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
So we were using tech in the park in 1995. Cooper Thornton, who moved from here and went out to LA and had a great.
Yes, indeed.
Oh, great.
Yep.
Oh,
Our Little Prince, there's Brian Russell. And Helen Shute.
Oh, wow.
She was incredible.
Yeah.
That's so
wonderful.
beautiful. And as the flower, too.
Oh, the flower. So moving. She made me cry every time.
Does anybody remember the year that we switched from those awful banners that Tony and me and others had to bang in to the ones that sort of slid into a sleeve? Does anybody remember the year that happened? Oh, wow.
I think you did that after I moved away, Donald. I got to bang them in the whole time I was there.
Yeah, I think that was after Tony moved away.
I think that was the
Was
only
it in
thing.
the 2000s? Jill, do you remember?
Oh,
I
Robert
don't-
will know. I think.
I don't remember, but I think actually banging in the stakes for the banners was the only thing I didn't do for the Shakespeare Festival. Everything.
I remember, Jill, you complained about it once when we were interrupting one of your rehearsals because Tony and I were making too much noise banging them in.
Right, and you were not banging them in iambic.
Yep.
That the tennis changed over.
Right.
Remember that, Tony? We had some words about it, you and I, didn't we? About ingratitude, I think.
No, not banging in iambic pentameter, Donald. Had you been banging in the rhythm that the actors were speaking, it would have been.
That's right. Exactly.
I think about those early years and I think about how much courage we had, all engendered by youth. And then I think of Shakespeare saying that youth is hot and bold. And I think that that's true. We were definitely hot out there in the park every summer.
And bold.
And bold. We were so bold. I look back and I think, thank goodness we were that bold, because here we are 33 years later, and the festival has that same boldness now. We were just too, young to know better. So
Yeah, we didn't know any better. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been doing it.
it's true. It's true. We had a lot of good helpers, though, back then, people who did know better than we did and were very kindly and gently helpful. I think of Ann Cook Calhoun and, so many folks who were kind to us in our early years and helped us get about each year.
Helen, can you get your sound going?
Can you talk? Speak.
Who?
She looks so good. She doesn't.
No, she looks as beautiful as always.
Is Helen Shoot Petaway on there?
Helen?
Yes.
Her.
You, Donald, if you put us in gallery view, you'll be able to see everybody at the same time. See if you can unmute or it doesn't.
I can see you all on the TV.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I muted that, so.
You're on TV. What is Phil? That very first paragraph.
Yeah.
Phil and Tony. What do you guys remember?
Oh gosh.
You were in As You Like It, right? Were you both in As You Like It?
Yeah.
I was not in. I was an audience member.
Yeah.
That was my first production of Shakespeare in the Park. Was an audience member. Turning my car head.
Bill was in it. I was just helping.
Yeah. Yeah. It was amazing. Like Jill said, it was just like people who, young people who didn't know any better and didn't really care, just wanted to go out and have some Shakespeare in the Park. I mean, Steve Chambers Stevens helped us out there in that sense, and all of us sort of just, hey, we didn't have a barn, but we had a park, so
and one costume to share with everyone.
Yeah.
And that really was a part of the beginning of what we were all sharing, was that it was a public park. This was a public service, that we're really giving something to the community. I was also in the audience that year, and that's what I got from it. It's like, this is this city needs this kind of cultural event that's for everybody. And we all did it. Helen, any voice yet? Is there a microphone? Darn.
Helen?
Chalkboard?
Mute her? Is she muted and Robert unmute her?
No, she's not marked as muted. It's just the mic on her computer, I suppose. Well, we need to get together soon and do this over coffee, Helen.
It was that next year following when we moved over to the band shell and did Pericles. That's when I met Jill, I think.
Yeah.
And Phil, of course, was superhero Pericles. And and one of the things I remember most in that show was standing there at the curtain call and watching Ruth Sweet leap from her seat, applauding when we ended the show.
Right.
I just thought
that was high praise.
That was very high praise. You're right.
She was like a super luminary in Nashville theater, and she loved the shows. She loved
her Hieronymus.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The two of them jumping up and applauding and not knowing were they applauding because they loved it or were they applauding because it was over. I don't know which one that was.
They could easily have been applauding the courage of the actors who, it was not an easy environment to perform in. I mean, still isn't in some ways, but the wonderful part was who showed up to those shows. It was always a surprise that when the people started coming, I'm like, oh my gosh, look at these people. They all want to see the show. How exciting. But it was loud. You had to holler, and people were not always only paying attention. There wasn't a lot of just silence. So the actors had to really hang it out there, especially in the early years with no sound, hardly any lights, not a lot of interesting sets to look at. I mean, it was just them hanging it out there. So Phil, I remember being so incredibly impressed with your courage and your commitment, and that kind of inspiration that you shared with the audiences. I think that they couldn't help but applaud. They were like, yeah, right on. It's like what we all want to be. We all want to be those kind of heroes. So.
Well, yeah, I still remember the story that somebody that, like, years later, I was working one of the booths, and this woman came up and she said, you were Pericles, weren't you? And I said, well, yeah, I was. And she said, my kids went home after that for like weeks afterwards. They would play Pericles in the backyard. And so they're in college now. And it's like, wow. Yeah, that's what it's about,
Sure is. 1989, right?
Yeah, 1989.
It's
Right.
so that we were able to make people know there was a play called Pericles.
I know, right?
Yeah. And how to pronounce it. Well, guess what? That's it for the first decade. Any final thoughts? And feel free if you spanned the decade. I know, Helen. I know.
Helen was great in everything.
You are definitely a part of it. I know.
She cried in many of those shows as well. So
she does. She's so
sweet.
Oh, it's my queen, Titania. We will move into the 1999 to 2009 decade. So thank you very much. We're going to see who's John Royal is here to talk about this.
I left Nashville, so I will leave the show now.
Bye, Tony. See you.
See you, Tom.
Brenda, yes. And Herb is here from East Tennessee. Lovely. So once we are all assembled, y'all, we are gonna, Carrie and Robert have put together like a little slideshow. You can unmute because as you see yourselves or your friends, or as any of the images in the slideshow strike a memory, you can share it because there's no music under the slideshow.
Aww. Y'all still look the same.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a great.
There's Misty and Brian.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the back of Matt Carlton.
Oh boy. This one, Brenda, this is where my respect for you grew like wildfire.
And DJ Matt.
Mary and Denise, made that show incracly moving.
It was amazing.
Yeah. And Lily Parm's set got applause every night.
It did.
Here's our fractal based dream.
Oh my gosh.
Fractal mathematics, fractal music, fractal art.
We worked so hard in that.
Lovely. There's Emily Landman sitting on the floor in that picture. Yes. One of the apprentices. It's just so exciting.
I saw a picture just recently. I was like, oh my gosh.
This comedy of errors, David Wilgerson and wonderful humans. There's Herb.
Here's Herb. And that brilliant Jeremy Childs.
Yeah, definitely.
Emily again. Emily and Houston may or may not show up tonight. They have a sick baby. But I wanted to come along since they met in the 2014 As You Like It, fell in love, had a baby.
I stage managed this one.
Did you? See,
Yeah.
I need you guys here because I don't remember things. So I need on, right?
Yeah.
I love that opening sequence.
Aw, and I directed that.
Very wise.
Awesome.
Yes.
So lovely.
I love that production.
It's like a party.
Carlton.
Her.
There's her. Nice.
Yeah.
And those two are married and have a baby.
Also, there's plenty of Shakespeare babies.
Yeah.
Savannah's a successful New York actress. She's done so much.
Yeah.
Kamal Bolden there on the right is now in, and now he's on the left, but he's living in LA now doing some really amazing work. I'm so excited for him. Bradley Brown, Benjamin Reed, one of the American Shakespeare Center actors now.
So wonderful.
That was wild show. Well, so you guys, so what do you remember about 1999 to 2009?
Gosh. You know what? Oh, Jill.
Go ahead,
Oh
Brenda.
gosh, I have so many memories of the two of us together too. I was thinking so much today about our midsummer, because we were talking about the fractals, and we did everything was a dream within a dream within a dream, and so everybody had a character track of who they were, as a mechanical, and then when they dreamed they were an Athenian, and when their Athenian dreamed they were a fairy, and so we all had a track of who we were through that whole thing. We worked so hard and ran so hard and played so hard in that heat, and that's seriously one of my favorite theater memories because of that, because it was just all out play and everything happened so fast. And then I guess a stroke of misfortune, but also I then ended up getting to play opposite Denise, because even though she directed it, she had to then step in and play the role of Helena. So we blocked her.
You're the same height.
But it was
John, your first show was 98, was it?
Yeah, that was 12th night. Yeah.
Were you were still in school, were you?
I was still in college. That was the first show. That was the last show before the Apprentice Company. And so, yeah, I was in the show, and I would help them set up. One of my favorite memories is actually the next year. I wasn't in the show. I was the sound tech for the show, which meant that for the first time in my life, there were responsibilities during the show, but I could actually sit and watch the entire run.
Yeah.
And I sat and watched the entire run. And that show for me was really magical, in as much as with the shadows and Ariel being dance, and then this idea of scale. And so then to be able to track and clock the run in that way, really it expanded what I was able to see, and it just gave me a lot of opportunity to put actual physical hands on every single piece of a production.
Wow.
And to be able to watch it. And so it was mind expanding, honestly.
And Helen, whose voice we cannot hear, was the voice of Ariel that summer, and was so glorious. Another glorious performance by Helen. Shoot, cut away. Hey Herb, I can't see you. Can anybody see Herb's video? Can you hear us, Herb?
Hello?
There he is. Herb has also, in addition to being an actor, he has come along and done and worked with our apprentices year after year after year. We're so lucky to have such a esteemed author of acting books to be working with our apprentices. What do you remember, Herb? Oh, Herb was there. He's in the mountains of East Tennessee. I wonder if the internet is a little not as strong.
No.
One of my favorite pictures popped up recently of our daughter, because of course, as you know, Denise, with Arlo turning 30 today, when you have a child and you're acting, and especially if you're working with the Shakespeare Festival, they're raised with Shakespeare and they're raised in the park. And those glorious shots of Coriolanus, where we had that sand pit and where we would fight in that every night, and when we had our fake blood and our weapons that would come out and splatter and I just remember taking a little Mary home, my daughter, each night, 'cause she loved that show so much. And she'd just be spattered in blood and like asleep on Michael's shoulder. And I just remember thinking, like, is this wrong? Should I feel bad about this? But I just like, it's one of my favorite memories of her just covered in blood because she just had to be up close on the fight scenes. I loved it.
Awesome.
So good.
Jill, how did it change from directing in the first decade to directing in the second?
Well, it was so interesting looking at this because I was only involved in one show in the second decade. So
that As You Like It, right?
Yeah, As You Like It, yeah. And which Matt Carlton did the music, wrote the music for that. I was thinking of earlier tonight, listening to Dave Allen, which was so moving. I think it was fun to, it felt like that the festival was growing up, so I felt like I was watching, one of my blood spattered baby, like, get older, It was really incredibly exciting. And I think it was in that decade where you're like, you know what, this is going to happen, because it was hard and we knew it'd always be hard, but it was like, this is it, this is happening. And the incredible contributions of all the artists and actors. I mean, it's just, you thought if people could do this after the second decade, then it's going to happen. It's worthwhile.
Yeah.
Exciting.
Yeah.
Gratifying.
Yeah, that Little Prince, right? That might have been the first time we did 2 shows in the park, right?
Yeah.
John, were you in that Little Prince, the one in the park?
That was the first show I auditioned for, was Little Prince and Taming of the Shrew that year. That was 2007. And so actually there was some really, I'd never auditioned for Shakespeare Festival before, and I came and everybody was so nice and so welcoming that I was like, oh man, this is cool. I'm coming back next year. I'll come back next year and audition. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it was a good experience to audition. So,
You weren't in the 2006 Macbeth?
I was not. No, yes, I was. I was in the 2006 Macbeth. I wasn't in the 90. I wasn't in the one in the Macbeth in the 90s. I was not. I was definitely in the 2006 Macbeth.
Yes.
I had a great time.
Yeah.
I thought so, because I remember you with that bamboo armor on and your.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. Mary,
Also,
go ahead.
Yeah, little trivia with John Royal is that he used to be the our daughter's favorite punchline to a knock knock joke. We still don't know why, but she thought it was hilarious to say knock knock, who's there? John who? John Royal, and it would slay. And that was always one of her.
It was slay with her. Everybody else was like, "What are you talking
Everybody
about?"
else is like, well, I think I know him, but
yeah, yes. So when Arvo was little and he learned to be or not to be, he would say, because we were working with Ray Thornton at the time. Yes. And so he learned to be or not to be. That is the question, whether it is nobler in the mind, suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous Thornton.
Very good. Before he learned to talk, he knew iambic pentameter because one of the actors, when he would start to talk, and Arlo was like 1.5, 2, he would say very loudly at the back of the house, da, 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 da. Denise would go running off, like, and
that was during Othello. Because Joe Keenan was in that show, and Joe had a really beautiful, loud projecting voice, and Arlo would just. No, we are ready to move into the very last decade. Any final thoughts, my friends? It's so good to see your faces.
I'm just so glad that you have survived, and that we're all still here to reminisce, and that we're all still feeling inspired and creative, and we love what we do and we want to keep doing it. I think that's an incredible testament. I love that we have all built this together and still being embraced and loved, and we all want it to live.
Yes.
I bow in your general direction. Absolutely.
Yeah. Great.
Thanks for getting everybody together.
Oh my gosh, thanks for showing up, friends. Stick around if you did shows from 2010 to 2020. Herb, sorry, your sound didn't come through for us, but I hope to see you soon. Love y'all.
Bye. Thank you.
Love you.
Love you all.
Let's see. So, who's here to talk about the next? Bologna. Yay, Teresa is here. Nat, you made it. Excellent. Yay. So as soon as we're all gathered, we're going to watch a little slideshow that you'll see images of yourselves, and the sound, you can unmute now because as these images are showing, your voices are heard. We don't have any music to play under the slideshow, but here we go.
All right.
Oh, that was my first show. Teresa, I wanted you to be here because you were such an important part of this decade. It was a funny show. Oh, no, it's not this one. They're crying.
Hilarious.
Yeah, beautiful. David Wilkerson directed this show. We were so, it was a glorious one.
I didn't know Shannon was in that one.
Yeah, Lady Capulet.
I didn't know.
It's a Much Ado set, red, white, and blue.
Oh yeah, that was one of my very favorites. The musical. It was so fun. It was such a good show.
Such a good show. Yeah. Those uniforms are so. Those fairies.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, my favorite shirt ever.
And the tattoo on your head every night.
No, that scared my wife a lot.
But you rocked it, Nat. You rocked it so good.
No, I liked it. It was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Couple who now have
Oh yes.
Married with babies. Mm-hmm.
Apprentices were such a great part of this community as well. That was Santiago's first show with us.
Oh, that was my first Summer Shakes show.
Henry V.
Oh yes.
Hi.
Mm-hmm.
David
That was
Compton.
so good.
Oh man.
Man. Wow.
Garner. Yeah. There she
There
is.
you are.
Yeah.
Hey, I don't have the picture. Someone send it to me.
Tweak it. Yeah, we've got them. It's somewhere in the archives. And we're moving into 2016.
Taylor Kelly.
That was a fun show.
That was a fun show. Oh, I'd forgotten we had done both of those.
Oh yes.
Macbeth was really good.
It was so good. There's buckets of blood.
There was so many buckets.
Another 2-show summer. They were so strenuous. There we go.
I love you, Jeff Davin.
I know.
You.
Very good. And Sam.
Oh, he was great.
Mm-hmm. So fun. And then this takes us all the way up to this last year. First year at One City. That show and all the way back to Pericles. So we decided to do this because it had been 30 years since we'd done this show.
Oh, I so wish I had that production. It looks so wonderful.
Yeah, it was sweet. It was really moving. Yay! Well, that was sort of a quick trip. What do you remember? What strikes you about those times?
I remember, Denise, first of all, you're so beautiful, and it's so great to see your lovely face again. But I remember you challenging us to be free, to fight every night, to continue. We surprised each other. Our audience came back every week, sometimes multiple times, because it was literally a different show with more surprises. And our little fairies, they would go out. We invited people to bring food to feed the fairies. And I remember even a month later, after the show is closed, I'm in the park at another event, and a woman's daughter tried to feed me food because I was going.
I bet you ate it too.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, that little girl that was Bella Higginbotham. She is now up in Vancouver shooting a film. She's on set. She's like that kid. But her first Shakespeare, and we really, Julie, her mom, just said it lit her up, and she's really stuck with it.
She's lighting it up now, that's for sure.
Yeah. Right?
That's awesome.
Troop Zero, she plays she's got a great role in that. Was her first big
She's
film.
really funny.
Yeah.
I think we all learned what a great dancer Nat actually is. I may be revealing something that maybe hasn't been talked about in a while, but Nat was a young ballet dancer.
That was a long time ago. It's very true. Very long
How many
time.
pairs of pants did you go through?
June still just says she just reinforces my pants in the crotch every show I do. I think I busted through 3 pairs of pants in that show. It was really, and it was never on the seam, so it was impossible to fix. It's really embarrassing. But there you go.
Yeah.
Got to be known for something.
Yeah. For real.
Jamaica, Teresa, any final thoughts?
Yeah, like I just remember the master class that is David Compton, and it was one scene in particular where every actor who was not on stage would come to the wings and watch him do a certain part of the show and just be amazed every single night.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's really, I mean, that's what theater is. It's for those strong artists that can live in the moment. They change our lives in ways that you cannot capture on film. You have to be here.
Yeah. And there's nothing like outdoor theater. You know, me and my 6 rain apps to make sure that we could get through a show, or calling rain face, or a random homeless person who would come and disrupt something. Most of them were great, but on occasion you got that odd one. So it was just like something different every single night. And even every night at the performance, the actors would bring something different every single night too, which was also really lovely.
I went basically straight from Lincoln Center for a year to the park, and the cockroaches in the bathroom and like all that crazy stuff. But listen, what I got to tell you, that production and every production since then that I was out there, I'd take that anytime over a beautiful indoor space. There's something about the spirit that you all created. And like Apolloni was talking about, the apprentices every year and the spirit they brought was something that I'd never seen before and haven't seen since. So it was really magical.
And how nature during our show, Nat, was involved so much. Like we would speak and then the lightning would strike, right?
That was Teresa. She was calling the show. So
I was calling the lightning too. Yes.
The bats.
And the bats.
Oh, the bats.
Bats.
What, 8-11 every night? It was crazy.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. We got a minute earlier as the sun went down.
That's right.
Well, friends, I have a super big announcement to make. So I'm going to say thank you all for being here. And I'm going to move on to our huge news. Nat, I will see you in your production of As You Like It.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Dates for that?
They're in September, and I can't remember what they are exactly, but we'll talk about it later.
And friends, we will all work together again soon. We just have to make it so.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Love
much.
you so much. Mwah.
Bye, guys.
You guys.
Yay. Yay. Gosh, it was great to see those friends, and so wonderful to reminisce. 30 years of Shakespeare, Summer Shakespeare. So many of you have been there every summer with us, and that really is what makes it worthwhile to be a part of this community and know that we are making memories with you year after year after year. So now, I have promised you a really big announcement, and it's time. Okay, so I am the Executive Artistic Director of the Nashville Shakespeare Festival. Our mission is to educate and entertain the Mid-South community through professional Shakespearean experiences. For over 30 years, we have strived to train and employ Nashville artists to present the highest quality theater possible, while keeping the summer show free and every other thing that we do affordable. We have continuously worked, sorry, I had to write this down because I didn't want to cry and I wanted to stay on track. Okay. We have continuously worked toward gender equity and to have representation in our company and on our stages of all ages, body types, skin colors, ethnicities. And I say strived and continuously worked because I knew, and we all knew, that we could always do better. So, for the past few years, I have been attending shows produced by Kenny Dozier for Kenny Playhouse Theater. I have been enriched, impressed, and moved by those productions. So when Kenny approached me at One City last year after seeing The Tempest and said, I want to put an August Wilson play on this stage, I said yes. Now we are creating the Cultural Alliance, a new joint venture between Kenny Playhouse Theater and the Nashville Shakespeare Festival, which will be a mutually beneficial partnership and a bridge between our communities. Next summer at One City, under the 28th and 31st Avenue connector, the Nashville Shakespeare Festival, in partnership with Kenny Playhouse Theater, will present August Wilson's Jitney, as well as William Shakespeare's Twelfth Night. This partnership will strengthen both companies' efforts toward their missions and achieve more than either company could without the other. Moving forward, the Kenny Playhouse Theater producing artistic director Kenny Dozier will join the staff of the Nashville Shakespeare Festival as a full-time producer. NSF and KPT will work together on all productions moving forward, improving the collective impact of educational outreach, assuring more diversity in our casts and crews, and enhancing and elevating our offerings to include important contemporary playwrights. And now, I would like to introduce to you Kenny Dozier, the producing artistic director of Kenny Playhouse Theater and the new producer of the Nashville Shakespeare Festival. Hey, Kenny, are you there? You're muted.
Mute me.
And you're muted again. Try unmuting one more time.
Am I muted?
Not anymore.
Hey, hello, hello.
I was so excited making that announcement. I was like shaking. I'm just so excited.
I am shaking too. I am so excited. My name is Kenny Dozier, Artistic Director of Kenny Playhouse Theater, now producing Artistic Director for the Nashville Shakespeare Festival and Kenny Playhouse Theater, in which we formed a cultural alliance. I am so excited. I hope you are. I mean, I can't sleep at night because we've both been talking about this for a long, long time. For those of you all who do not know who I am or what we've done, we've put together a little video of our history. Check it out. We'll come back and talk more. Hello.
Well,
Hope you.
Golly, just the quality of actors that you work with, the directors that you bring in. I'm just so excited about elevating your platform and having your energy producing for Shakespeare Fest. And
Yeah, I'm excited. I know many of the actors, some of them went on to do Shakespeare with you, Rick, and some others, Kamal, you know, and I remember when we all first started. And so I'm really excited about giving opportunities for Black actors to work, especially the many of us I consider to be underserved in terms of having opportunities to act, which is why we were created, and then thus, you know, getting a chance to perform in front of a diverse audience have always been our goal, to tell our stories, to really just, it would be wonderful just look out in the audience and see both communities and all communities of Nashville watching the shows and enjoying both Shakespeare and the things that we are doing, which is Jitney next year of August Wilson. And so, and I'm excited about the educational piece. There's a lot of things that we do, that we've done with kids and everything. So I'm just excited. I can't sleep. And working with you, I know John Royal said something that was the same thing happened to me, John, is that when I came to the Shakespeare Festival events, you guys treated me so nice. I mean, I was in one of the workshops.
Everybody, don't take it personally. We're nice to everybody.
I was in one of the workshops, and you know, I studied acting as an actor because I am an actor. But I noticed that a lot of them, when I looked at a very, very good actor, I started looking at their history, and so a lot of them did Shakespeare. And so, and in the Black community, you know, Shakespeare is not really common, and especially when you get into community theater and stuff like that, which is kind of where I started. And then I started moving into professional ranks. But a lot of the professional actors that I love, they all did Shakespeare, and I was kind of wondering what that was about. And so I started going to workshops and stuff like that. And so I'm excited. I did auditions for this year. I was going to be in the 12th night this year. I was hoping I was getting cast because I was going to do my best Kenny stuff on you guys. But anyway, I'm excited about what's going on.
Yeah, me too. And the as far as like our educational outreach, so both companies are going to maintain, like Shakespeare Fest will still be Shakespeare Festival. Kenny Playhouse Theater will still be Kenny Playhouse Theater, but we will be doing everything together. So it's called a joint venture. It's the overall umbrella is the Cultural Alliance, and that's going to fuel us as we move forward to where our two missions align. It's in community service. It's in educating young people through theater. It's giving actors the chance to work for the community and get paid. So all of the above, we are going to just keep on keeping on, and I'm very excited about it.
Yes, yes, yes. So I just want to reach out to a lot of Black actors to reach out to us. You know, we would love to do more and just really kind of intertwine with both communities and do more works together and just really just set Nashville ablaze with this theater thing that we got. We have a lot of wonderful stories to tell, and I look forward to it. I'm really excited about it.
Excellent. Well, I think then all we have to say is good night, and thank you all for sticking with us and for enjoying this evening and celebrating in the way we have tonight. We're grateful for you and grateful for each other, and hope you all stay safe, and we will get through this, and we are going to come out, like Kenny says, ablaze.
Ablaze, on fire, people.
Good night.
Good night.
If we shadows have offended, think but this, and all is mended. That you have but slumbered here, while these visions did appear. And this weak and idle theme, no more yielding but a dream. Gentles, do not reprehend. If you pardon, we will mend.
And as I am an honest puck, if
serpent's tongue, we will make amends ere long, else the pup a liar call. So, good night unto you all. Give me your hands if we be friends, and Robin shall restore amends.